topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Who is January Jones? She is not a young, beautiful, talented actress on Mad Men. She is not an older, gorgeous, exotic dancer from the Johnny Carson Show. She is an author, and she wrote Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment, that reached #1 at Amazon.com. She is a reality TV golf personality with World High Stakes Golf televised on HDNet. She is a humorist and winologist expert. She is your featured host today on January Jones Sharing Success Stories. So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and listen to Ms. Jones with her eclectic roster of guests as you learn life's lessons. These stories plus sharing equals success. Welcome, and remember, beware, because you are entering the no whining world of January Jones.
Everyone, I hope you're having a glittery and glowing day. I'm January Jones, and I'd like to welcome you to our podcast today. As many of you know, I'm promoting a new brand, Glitter Granny Gifts, to give or to get. My website is for anyone who loves to shop. I feature glitter hats, jewelry, my collections of canes, you name it. I'm now an associate affiliate at Amazon, along with my Golden Doodle ginger ale. Now, every granny out there, I hope you will get ready to glitter and glow with me. Go to glittergranny.com, subscribe, and start shopping. And if you do, you'll get a free copy of my book, Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment. It was #1 in humor and religion. Profits from this website go to Disabled American Veterans, Company A, Sarasota, Florida. Now, I'd like to ask you a question. During this election season, do you remember what your last political discussion was? Was it an unpleasant experience? How do you feel about this election coming up? Tell me, does anyone in your family even agree with you these days? Now, have you ever heard of a book? It's called The Biology of Politics. If you can answer yes or maybe to any of these questions I've asked, then you are in the right place. And I'd like to welcome you to January Jones Sharing Senior Success Stories. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit about my guest. But before I do, it's time to rest, relax, get some wine, get some cheese and crackers, so you can join us in the no wine zone. My guest, I'm so excited to have him here with us today. He is a physician specializing in psychiatry. He received his degree from Harvard Medical School, where he then taught for 20 years at that school. His knowledge of genetics stems from medicine and from his study with 4 Nobel Prize winners at the Pasteur Institute in Paris. He has experience in national politics, having worked as a field director in a presidential campaign, where he spoke on the same stage with 2 future presidents. He is the author of The Biology of Politics, and it is my pleasure today to welcome to our podcast Dr. Melvyn Lurie. Hi, doctor. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, and thanks for inviting me to this podcast.
Oh, Dr. Lurie, it's wonderful to have you. I've been looking forward to you coming because, as you know, everyone is talking about politics these days, aren't they?
Well, they're not necessarily talking to some of their family members or friends, unfortunately, as you were saying.
Well, I know, it's crazy. It's like this has been so divisive for so many families. And I'm sure that you have dealt with this. Now, when you wrote Biology of Politics, you're talking about civilizations. They last 250 years. And as far as I know, history tends to repeat itself. Is that true, doctor?
Absolutely. The question is why? Because we don't want this civilization of ours to disintegrate. So that's what got me going.
Okay. And historians talk about wars and royalty, and they don't really give us enough information about the scientific aspect. And you write about the biology of human nature and how that works. Could you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
Sure. Well, you see, because historians don't talk about biology of politics, they didn't know about it, I take another route. So I decided to study a lower species because it's simpler than our complicated human species. Mm-hmm. Now, the question was which lower species, and I came up with nesting species. So let's talk about birds. So what do birds do? Well, they there's an outside the nest adult that brings food in for the hatchlings, right? Very independent hatchlings. In addition, the outside the nest parent wards off danger, would-be intruders. Let me tell you a personal story. I got too close to a robin's nest one day, and before I knew it, there was this robin. He seemed like a giant. And I pushed him away. He kept coming back. The only way I stopped it was to just run away. So it stopped. But the point is, that's how strongly this drive is to prevent would-be intruders to the nest. Okay. Inside the nest, reproduction takes place. We're not talking about sex. We're talking about reproductive development from infancy to adulthood.
Okay.
And once I saw what the functions were inside the nest, I could see how they were manifest in us humans. So the ones inside the nest are to feed, to nurture, and especially to tend to the most vulnerable at the time, to and also to clean the nest. Most people don't know it, but little hatchlings deliver a fecal sac to the mother, who then takes it out and keeps the nest clean.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
So,
so that's where that comes from.
Well, it's a drive.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, we can see it manifested in the regular family unit.
Absolutely.
Go outside the nest, you bring in money because you're not going to carry food in.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break and hear about this glitter granny thing that I'm doing. But when we come back with Doctor, we're going to talk about survival and reproduction. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Glitter Granny Gifts to Give or to Get. Hosted by January Jones, aka Glitter Granny, and her Golden Doodle Ginger Ale. If you're a granny who wants to glitter and glow, it's time to join us for a sparkling shopping experience that will be unique and so very special. Whenever you need a unique and spectacular gift, then Granny will help you find it. Along with gifts for family, friends, and holidays, there are even glitter gifts for coworkers, in-laws, doctors, and you can even find something for your friend who has everything. If you need a really good gag gift, you'll find it here. Hats, canes, shoes, accessories. When it comes to glitter accessories, Granny and Ginger Ale are on board with everything you can imagine, and then some more. The favorites are at her website, and remember, she is adding to this list almost every day with lots of fun gifts to give or to get. Granny has created a website that is glamorous and glows with glitter products to wear or to use every day. As she says, if it ain't got bling, it doesn't mean a thing. Now let me tell you about her glitter hat collection. She actually has too many to count. Her collections are must-have accessories for any glitter granny who enjoys getting attention everywhere she goes. Remember, if people are going to stare at you, make it worthwhile for them. And canes? Everyone will ask you, where did you get it? Can I get one too? Now, just go to glittergranny.com and check it out.
Welcome back with my guest, who is definitely not a whiner because he is a winner. And Dr. Lurie, would you share with our listeners your website and where they can get your book?
So they can get the book at thebiologyofpolitics.com. Thebiologyofpolitics.com. My website is my name, melvynlurie.com.
Oh, wonderful.
The first one is more interesting. That's
And for our listeners, go to Glitter Granny and go to Amazon and get Biology of Politics. We were talking about survival and reproduction, and let's get right down to the nitty gritty. So it's applied to, your biology is applied to politics. Could you give us some examples of what would happen if ex-President Trump wins, and then also what would happen biologically speaking if Kamala Harris wins? Could you give us some examples about that?
Sure. So our civilization is on a path, and on that path, we seem to be at a flexion point between balance between survival and reproduction and imbalance. And that could be the thing that ends societies, civilizations. So if Trump is elected, he wants to make America great again. He will move the clock back to when there was a balance between survival and reproduction. By the way, after he's out, if he does this and he's out, the trend will continue because it's so strong. It's embedded in our society. If Harris wins, we'll continue on the path we've been on for the last 4 years. So, and that unfortunately is such that it creates an imbalance between drives. And until it's reestablished, our society is vulnerable to stressors, and we have a lot of stressors, as you know. So
yes, let's talk about some of the stressors we have now. This illegal immigration has a big topic that we hear a lot about, and I was upset that it didn't pass in the Congress this last go around. And do you have any thoughts about immigration?
Sure. The reason it didn't pass is because the actual bill that was presented would make things worse, without going into details. So it didn't pass. So everybody can say, oh, it didn't pass, but there's a reason. The reason is because it would make things worse. And I can't go into the details. If you want, I can talk a little bit more about that. But the point is that we, as a society, don't understand and appreciate the drives that are in all of us to different degrees but have split the society so that the people focusing on survival, like economy and military, and the people focusing on reproduction, which is nurturing, caring for the most vulnerable, keeping things clean. There's an imbalance. And the trick, the idea to keep a civilization, I think, strong is to allow all the drives to occur to the degree that they don't interfere with other drives. And we can, once we appreciate these are drives, deal with them. There's a sex drives, but it doesn't. You don't get willy-nilly. I mean, you don't have cavemen clubbing women, and it's not allowed. We manage that drive so that it's fulfilled, but not to the detriment of other drives, like having a reasonable society. So that's an example I give because everybody can appreciate that there's a sexual drive. Can they appreciate there's a drive to cleanliness? A drive. It's not just some idea out of nowhere. It's a drive. And I could go on, but it seems like you have something to ask me.
Okay. Now, it's very important, obviously, to keep the economy strong. And so far, what I'm seeing, some of the numbers are indicating this has been one of the most incredible economies that we've had in many, many years. And what are your thoughts about our economy? Is biology related to the economy in any way?
Well, of course, because we're biological creatures, it's related in some way. The question is, I mean, that's what my quest has been. How is it related?
Yes.
So the economy is just a more abstract or generalized manifestation of this drive to bring resources into the nest. The nest becomes the country, the nest.
Yes, right.
So, right. So it's a drive. We want to, we're driven to have money. A lot of people can't help it. And so the economy is suffering because some inside the nest drives are interfering. When I say drives, what I mean is a behavior that's going to happen. If it doesn't happen one way, it'll happen another way or another way. It's a drive. It keeps it's like an urge or a force. It keeps trying to happen. So, but when you have an imbalance between, let's take the reproductive drive of cleanliness, because lower species have cleanliness too, and we learn from them. If you take the drive of cleanliness, in this case, the clean environment, if you take that to the nth degree, to the point where you interfere with another drive, say the drive to have a strong economy, then you have an imbalance in the society. And that's when you're liable to disintegrate or to be a victim, vulnerable to some force. And there are plenty of, as you say, there are plenty of forces that are stressing our society now.
Oh, yeah. And actually, the stresses are just what we see every day in our news situation and all the things that we are hearing, pro, con, this, that, whatever. And it's such a divisive environment. Have you ever experienced any situation like this before?
I haven't. The country has, in terms of the Civil War. But you see, we got over that stressor, that divide. And this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Anthropologists will say that when a society collapses, say from famine or drought or an enemy, the question is, why they collapsed then? Because the society probably incurred those stressors before and overcame them. So the question is, why can't our society overcome some of these stressors on us? Immigration is one. Infiltration is another. And, this is what makes our society vulnerable right now. This is why this is a mission for me. This is my my mission. I want to get the word out because I feel that if people start to look at what happens in society from a biological perspective, first of all, they might be able to have a discussion with their friends and their family. Okay, yeah. But by the same token, the people who make the laws, our government, they can consider this when they make any policy decision. You can't go too much in one direction at the expense of another direction. There has to be an equilibrium, a balance that goes on.
And there's, there's a sad situation, it seems to me, that this immigration thing, whether it's with whichever party is in control, we've had this problem. This is a long-range problem that keeps coming back over and over again. And it's just, something that just has to be solved. Don't you agree?
Well, of course, yes, it does. The question is, will it be? Because it's happening because of the people in charge. And if they continue to be in charge, they'll probably continue it. Unfortunately, it's easier to see how that can lead to the collapse of a society, that how it can change the culture, change the economics of society, because we're spending so much money on the immigrants, you see, at the expense of the overall economy and the military. So it's understanding and appreciating these things. Go ahead.
It's been very difficult. I'm, like everyone, I suppose, I'm from a family of immigrants and everyone in this country. Yeah. And it's been very upsetting to see the negative portrayal of immigrants, because as you and I know, there are so many, they are the people who made this country what it is. My family, your family, my husband's family. And it's very sad that people are saying negative things about immigrants, don't you think?
Well, it is, but they always specify illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
My father's an immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
He came over the hard way, the right way. He waited, applied, he waited, and he finally was able to get the permission, the visa, to come. Yes. So believe me, I am sympathetic to that. And you hear this in the media that most people are fine with immigrants. The question is, you can't overwhelm the society. America cannot feed the world. Everybody keeps coming in. We can't handle it. Not to mention that if 1% of what they say is 10 million, that's 100,000, okay, 100,000. If those people are the robbers, the rapers, the murderers that Donald Trump talks a lot about, that's 100,000. That's 100,000. We don't know who they are even. That's totally uncontrolled. And
it's uncontrolled because basically it's pretty hard to document, isn't it? I mean, how do you know when people come over which one's a rapist and which one's a robber? It's kind of like a lot of these people just are coming over looking for work. And those people are actually good for the economy, aren't they? The worker bees.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see, our economy, our culture has dealt with that over the years. They've been migrants that come in, do the work, and they go back home. And we have regular immigration. It's when things get out of hand, that's the problem. And that creates the tension, because you can't have people focused on the economy seeing us try to feed the world. Yes. And it demoralizes the military, who are trying to stop would-be intruders. That's how it comes out genetically. Stop would-be intruders. And the military can't even fulfill its quota, its recruiting quota. So we have weakened survival because we've basically taken it for granted, and we've overdone reproductive issues to keep things clean and take care of the most vulnerable.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break right now, and I've written a memoir that I want to share with our listeners. When we come back, I do want to talk about the reproduction situation in this country and the stress it has caused for quite a few women. We'll be right back.
Introducing Living and Dying Without Whining, a memoir. 80 years of magical moments, written by January Jones. Ms. Jones shares her most exciting and magical moments. Patriotic moments. Landing on aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson. Staying overnight, then catapulting off. Revealing moments. Working for the CIA for 5 years. Thrilling and comforting moments. Meeting Charles Lindbergh and Neil Armstrong together. Sassy moments. Swinging 60s and the 70s. The age of Aquarius. Exciting moments. As a TV contestant on Joker's Wild and Family Feud. Reality moments. Playing in the World Series of Golf on reality TV. Career moments. As a stewardess for Eastern Airlines. Touching moments. With meeting a half-brother she never knew about. With many, many more magical moments. Living and Dying Without Whining, a memoir. 80 years of magical moments, written by January Jones. Available at Amazon.com and Audible.com.
Welcome back with my guest today, Dr. Melvyn Lurie. He is the author of Biology of Politics. He graduated from Harvard, and he actually taught at Harvard for, I think, 20-some years. What an impressive background. We were talking about stress and reproduction. And this is a big topic for all the women in this country as far as their reproduction health. And that kind of fits in with your biology topic, doesn't it?
It does. And here's what I think is happening.
Yeah.
Women, traditional women, were stuck in the nest. They didn't really sustain themselves. I mean, there are a lot that were, but overall they didn't, and they were vulnerable. I mean, think of what a person feels if their life depends on someone coming back home every night and having money to buy food. So this stress on women was solved, I think, basically by the pill, and it has allowed women to come out of the nest and participate in survival issues, in the economy, in the military. So that's happening now. What happens when the reproductive people are doing survival, and what happens to the reproduction? And that's what's happened in our society and others. It's not unusual that when societies become more advanced and women can function as well as men, they're not plowing the field all the time, for example. This happens, the birth rate goes down. The problem is, and it's happening in a lot of societies, if you don't have enough young people to support the older people who are retired and not working, at some point you have the things to start to disintegrate. It's the case in China. You know, they limited reproduction for a long time. It's happening there. It's happening in other places. Every society needs needs offspring, because as they grow, they're able to support with Social Security, whatever, the people who can't work anymore. And it happens now with Social Security, but it happened over the ages when the children supported the parents. We're talking about human function, human nature, human drives, but they can get out of hand. Now, then people say, well, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? That's the hard part. But the first part is recognizing what's happening. If you don't recognize what's happening, then you're just floating in the water. So here we go. A lot of women personally, the basis to sustain themselves. They can work equally with men in the workplace. This is outside the nest, the country, the house.
Well, we're the basically I'm a feminist, and our generation is the one. We're the first ones that actually had access to the pill, and we're the first women that actually were able to do our birth control and take control of it and not be victimized by other aspects. I think the pill was one of the most amazing things that has come forth scientifically, biologically in our lifetime. Don't you agree?
Yes, it's amazing how technology can change a culture. Do you remember parietals? I don't know if your audience does, but I bet you do. Parietal rules in the colleges. There are lots of things like that disappeared because unwanted pregnancy didn't happen.
Yeah.
They're good and bad for all this. You see, there's good and bad. So the downside is that women can move out of the house, engage in the survival mode. Now, it used to be that women who were able to do both, that is, have children and have a career, they were called special. What was the word people used? Magic women or something like that. Now
Superwomen.
Now, more women can do it, but still a lot can't, and they turn around and they're 40, and it might be a little too late to engage in reproductive. So, what is one of the ways to deal with it? First of all, it has to be appreciated for what it is, how biological it is. But one way I think can help is to have daycare available, starting in large corporations, free to the female employees, so they don't have to worry that nobody's going to take care of their baby. Right. And not only that, I think this should be run to the extent it can by hospitals, by the medical community. Why? Because you're not going to have that many people who have bad urges in that community. And the cost is well worth it because society needs children, and women want children too. So do men, of course. But if they're focused on their career,
it's hard.
Yeah,
definitely. And as we have in vitro grandchildren, so we are very thankful for some of the things that have happened in young women's lives, that they enable them to be more reproductive, where before a lot of these options weren't available. And I think women's health, reproduction, women's health care, I think it's going to be a tremendous issue in this election.
Sure, it definitely is. And it comes out in different ways. I mean, the whole abortion discussion, for example, abortion biologically is seen in animals, in mammals. For example, certain animal might be frightened with a little brood behind her, might be frightened by something. Now, the question is, does she stay and try to protect her young, or does she neglect them for her own survival? And what happens in nature is the latter. They don't focus on the vulnerable family. That the idea is the person who survives can then have children.
Again.
If the children die,
that's it. That's a very interesting example, and it just happens naturally throughout civilization. This has been such an interesting discussion to have you with us. And are you do you have any more books coming up, or what do you have in your future plans?
Oh, well, a lot of my future plans, but I'm really trying to get the word out, and that's why I'm giving away the book free. It's free.
Great.
Yes, because I want the word to get out. Money is really secondary. I mean, I'm older, my kids are grown, the mortgage. So for me, I'm focusing on current issues, and I want to get the word out on this. It's a mission. I'm driven to do this because it's so important in terms of our society.
And where could our listeners, you said you're giving it away free, where would we go for that?
They go to thebiologyofpolitics.com.
Oh, okay. That's it.
That's it.
And it's also available for people who actually want to buy it. You can go to Glitter Granny and get it on Amazon. You know, it's been wonderful, Dr. Melvyn, to have you with us. And I hope you will come back again. And it's interesting to get your view and slant on what's going on in this crazy world we're living in. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thanks very much for inviting me. I want to get the word out.
Okay, maybe this will do it. Next week, I'm looking forward to welcoming Dan Luzader. He is the author of the Manchurian Journalist, which rings a bell for all of us people that watched The Manchurian Candidate many years ago. Thank you for entering the No Wine Zone with us today. It's been a pleasure to have you share our stories and our show with everyone you know. And we'll look forward to seeing you again. And in the meantime, remember to stop whining and then start smiling. And if that doesn't work, then you can start eating chocolate. Lots and lots of chocolate. Take care and stay safe. Be sure to glitter and glow until we meet again. Bye-bye.
We want to thank you for listening to January Jones Sharing Success Stories. Always remember Ms. Jones' personal mantra, if you can think it, you can do it. That's what all of our guests have done with their lives, and so can you. You are the ultimate success coach in your own life. All you need to do will be to start sharing your own story with your family and friends. We hope that our guest stories will encourage you to explore an equation in your future that will combine your creativity plus connecting with others will enable you to be successful too. Always remember, your passion plus your purpose will equal prosperity as you explore the wonderful world of January Jones.